this time I can do this. So if I move this here, I can do that.
Yeah.
You can see what I'm drawing. And I just did a quick Baphomet using kind of ink and then with a bit of charcoal as well, just to kind of get an idea of what sort of tones we might be able to do. But that's like a 2-minute sketch. So so we can try a few like that today if you want.
Yeah, I think the golem was intriguing me. Having seen the Saturn devouring his son, I thought, well, I know We Fail on Twitter has used that for Boris Johnson. So I thought it'd be lovely to have some of those classical references, particularly when the golem requires a sacrifice, if you like, of a Tanist in the game. So it feels like having something fairly like, what the hell have I just brought up here, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a nod to Goya in that sort of sense would be, I think it'd be lovely to have those artistic references in there.
Yeah, let's have a little.
So something that was very distinctly that form. So you know, almost like the same position. So it is the same thing. It's a beast that is eating something. It's just really horrible the way it starts with the head as well. I mean, he's already chopped the head. Oh.
If it was you though, you'd want him to start with the head, wouldn't you?
Well, in the sense that it won't be looking at me all the way through.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd be going for the barbecue bits, not the brainy bits.
No. I mean, if you were being eaten.
But I was just wondering if the way that you get that sort of, if you scraped thick oil paint down a canvas, you get that lovely sort of seeping texture. And when it's sort of framed around an image like that, where that thing is looking at you while it's doing what it's doing.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrendous.
Actoy is a fat, slovenly, baby flesh-eating cat. That's fairly horrific.
Yeah, I mean, this is. It's so you don't realize it. It's those eyes do make it look quite cartoon-like in the original, in the Goya.
Well, they're really sort of white smears with a black smear on the top, aren't they? I mean, they're really not. Yeah. These aren't carefully drawn eyes, but they. Oh, it just makes me shudder thinking about it. And I was thinking that, you know, something like that, that smearing effect could be quite good for things like Devil in the Hearth, where you want fire, you want heat haze effects.
Oh, that's where his arms need to go.
Yeah, the beasts in this rendered in this sort of Goya-esque style. I mean, salamander as well. Again, if you had it blurred with sort of hearthy, fiery, orangey colors, that gives it a sense of movement and flickering life, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
beasts. So if the beasts were done in this style, it's
there's something about half light which just is. Well, that's sort of where. If you try to rationalize ghost sightings and things like that, it's usually people start to talk about it's the way that the human brain interprets darkness and movement in low light and all that kind of stuff. Just something about half light just is that much more terrifying. There's a great series on Netflix which has just come out. It's a kids animation called City of Ghosts, and Maggie. It's only 6 episodes, and Maggie found it and watched all of them straight away. It's set in Los Angeles, and it's really about the different communities or the communities that used to exist in Los Angeles. And so the approach they used was to interview real people, and then a bit like Creature Comforts, and then animate around them. just kind of talking about what life used to be like and that sort of thing, and then they turn it into a story by kind of casting them in a story as a ghost. And the number of people that are convinced that they saw ghosts when they grew up is yeah, it's staggering.
There's a bit in the book, of course, when the doctor steps out of the circle at the end and sort of says to puts Satantia that, you know, I see you, you're not, you know, you're nothing, you're not real, and he just eats him up, doesn't he? He just swallows him whole. And there's an element here where this golem is feeding this corpse into its maw. It's bloody hell, it's horrible, isn't it?
Well, at the moment he's looking a bit like Bigfoot. So we'll see what. But I've tried to do a Tannis to getting eaten. Oh, yuck. Should he have hair?
It should just be lumps of clay. I think that's where the Goya-esque textures come into it. You can get that sort of grayish, muddy, sort of lumpy feel to it. Yeah, this isn't what the Tannis signed up for, was it? He thought he was going to get something out of this. Unfortunately, it's a rather bad headache.
So with all this, what I'm trying not to do is picture things like the Thing from the Fantastic Four or Clayface from Batman.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want any of that.
Because then people just go, oh, that's the Thing.
I mean, if it didn't have direct eyes at all, it just had like thumb pressings, sockets, but no eyes at all. It's just, so then you get some lovely shadow effects then, don't you?
That's not a bad
idea. Eyeless sockets could be it's tremendously satisfying just seeing those soft little short lines, but they just, it's the economy. I mean, this is why I really love the stuff you did for Lux, because the economy of line, and yet so much gets suggested by it.
It's taken me years to kind of get to it, but I think I made a conscious decision probably about 20 years ago that that's how I wanted to draw, because and I think by the time I'd got to art college, it was already starting to happen. Because of when it is a limitation in some ways that you're not allowing yourself complete freedom, but because I mean, all of this stuff, you're trying to create a world, and to create a world you need a level of control, you need a level of this is, like you say, a consistent line just makes one card linked to another card, and you can kind of, it's like, okay, as a player or as someone consuming art, it's just a little tip off that this is all the same thing. I mean, I think I spent lots of my time as a teenager buying sort of Warhammer Dungeons and Dragons stuff, but not necessarily playing it. It was the arts that I was interested in, and the assets, the bits and pieces, the paraphernalia was fascinating to me, almost more so than the kind of worlds that it created.
I do fear that there, a lot of this will completely pass people by.
But the integrity of it is there, isn't it? I mean, people would recognize that there is, this, it will convince them that it's a world, and that
it may be subliminal, actually.
Yeah.
And then when it's pointed out, then people will go, oh yeah.
Oh, it is getting a bit Clayface. It's a bit abominable snowman, actually.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? So he is quite friendly, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just the nostrils. I think that's what it gives him that life.
I think I was trying to get the idea of a skull that had been, maybe that he was created from a skull.
Yeah, and it sort of they haven't covered the skull completely with clay. It's sort of sticking out.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's always constantly sort of oozing off, and he might try and like someone might sweep back their hair, they might put their face back on, but
the dislocated lower jaw is what you need as well.
Yeah.
Or just hanging. Yeah.
I was looking at the box for this charcoal, and it's W.H. Smith. Wow. Where's the price?
Whoa! So what? This is from what, the 80s?
Yeah, it must be early 90s, probably.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that's been in the box for a long time. Still works, funnily enough.
I suppose, what if the golem didn't have clay on his head, but if it was this sort of skull?
Yeah.
And it could be, I mean, I tell you what, a really great skull is a cow skull, isn't it? An ox skull is really.
Oh, yeah.
The Judge Mortis from the Judge Dredd, Judge Death series.
I'm just guessing about anatomy here, but because that means the jaw can open wider. You can get a whole head.
Absolutely. And it's yeah.
Where did the nostrils live? About here, do they, or something like that? I suppose we could give it horns.
You don't really want to give it horns, because that would then confuse it with I think Baphomet needs to be the only one that's got the horns. I know what you mean. I know that would be quite good to have, but it might suggest this is the wrong individual.
Yeah.
And of course, with an animal like a cow or a goat, it's a ruminant, so it's not a carnivore. So you've got molars that are grinding into your skull as it kind of bites into it. So it's not even a clean bite, it's a grinding sort of.
Oh. So we could have the head twisted.
Well, actually, yes, of course, it would have to kind of twist and wrench it off, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you get a really horrible angle of the Tannist's head as it's being sort of twisted and pulled away from the body by the. So then you're getting towards the almost headless Saturn's son.
Yeah.
So something like this, you see, with the features you've got for the golem, it would be quite fun if the golem's features appeared in other pictures. So, for instance, if one of the candles was actually a candle sort of dribbled onto a beast's head, and then this picture would suggest that the guy picked up the candle holder and decided to use that as the head of the golem. Little equipment references to sort of like
join the thing up. Yeah.
Make do and mend when it comes to creating satanic assistants.
Yeah, because that's what's so amazing about that story is that it does feel like a workshop, and he's got everything sort of stacked. He's like a fantastic garage where you got all different size screws and bolts and everything, and that's, yeah, I need that. That's over there. And
Yeah, it's the Pimp My Ride, isn't it? But with demonic implements. You got Pimp My Ride with all of the different torque wrenches and spanners, from the large, super large ones down to the tiniest of tiny ones. And instead, you've got bowlines and sabers and epées and short swords and all sorts of stuff like that instead.
oh, well, should we try another one then?
Yeah. What about the salamander, or perhaps the devil in the hearth? Actually, so something
Yeah,
a sort of fireplace style, so that one could inform the other. So that the devil in the hearth would be the entirety of the fireplace in some shape or form, or the giant burning bowl or whatever it might be. Salamanders. I mean, if you look at the devil in the hearth picture on the card I've got, has got this sort of devil in a sort of fur coat with a little tiny owl for some reason. This little tiny weird bird of prey.
It's almost like a grass sort of cape.
It is. It's something you don't want near fire at all.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is a bit like the body in the sacrifice in the book that sort of burns like paper furiously until there's nothing left. The body of the familiar. Maybe that's the same idea. Is it is a sort of Wicker Man-ish sort of.
Yeah. So might the devil in the hearth. I mean, you could have. I mean, if we start for a fire, we'll start with a fire.
Before you start, can I just get you to write a couple of notes just for later?
Yeah.
Cushing, Christopher Lee. If we could get little images of them somewhere,
oh, yeah,
that would be delightful, because that would be reminiscent of The Devil Rides Out and all that sort of stuff, and those cheesy 60s horror movies, The Hammer. If we could just get them, because I love the way you've done George Harrison and Bowie and Bing Crosby in those limited edition pictures of yours. So if we could get a little nod to those guys somewhere, definitely. That'd be rather gorgeous, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps I think I've always imagined Theron Ware as being sort of like Peter Cushing, I suppose.
Yes.
If he was ever to be played in a movie, I think Peter Cushing would be superb. And Christopher Lee would be fantastic as the arms dealer. So I think maybe Cushing should be a bit like Stella in Lux. Whenever we glimpse bits of our protagonist, that reflections in the sword or whatever it is. Yeah, that could be quite fun to have him as this gaunt icon.
Yeah.
So Devil in the Hearth. Then what would we have for Devil in the Hearth?
Well, there could be. So you suggested that the salamander might be the close-up. So if we do kind of rough, if we start with a sort of a fire pit, just because that's easy to, and then we can build it up later.
They often have these giant iron bowls, don't they, which are sort of suspended on chains.
Oh yeah.
And they burn within them, so they hang free.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very like the burning of incense.
Yeah.
In Catholic ceremonies.
Oh, lovely. If you can have a pop at the Catholic Church, that'd be great. Says the ex-Catholic.
And then the salamander could be like one of the inhabitants of this
of the hearth. So the hearth itself is a thing, isn't it? And then these are entities that live within it.
Yeah. So you could have
and because the sacrificial lamb is also is an inhabitant, though. So these power elements, the candle, the salamander, the sacrificial lamb, and the devil in the hearth, these are all things that are to do with the fireplace.
So would it be, so the devil in the hearth, we want him, could it be a bit like the devil or the demon that's with Mother Shipton?
Or the little having him being
I don't know why, but it looks like she's on fire as well. It does look like
It's sort of, yeah, it's sort of presaging that she's going to burn for all eternity. But yeah, it's that
yeah,
having him coming out of the fire to, yeah. I mean, yeah, that could be quite interesting.
because
Yeah.
then it
So he
does
could,
have, yeah, it sort of has that connection to Calcifer,
yes.
in that it's not it's quite a diminutive form. It's not a which again is unsettling.
But it's right, because the only large, I mean, the golem should be large and stupid and horrifying
Yeah,
because it's dumb and it's from an inanimate thing. And the biggest, most worrying thing should always be Baphomet.
yeah,
I mean, that should be the cut. I mean, what I said last week, I think what I'd like to do is people that sort of get a flavor of the art as they're playing, and almost that when he comes on the table, he is physically in front of them the epitome of all that's gone before in the game. That as artistically, he just is everything. He's got this, he is the best picture on the card because he's the best card.
yeah,
And everything about him is made up of elements of all the other things that you've seen. So you almost get a view of the hierarchy of, like of humble bits of equipment are quite plain, but as more sophisticated the card becomes in its power and its role, the more sophisticated the artwork until you
yeah,
get this culmination. I mean, quite fun if he was sort of almost using this blazing coal fire like a swing.
yeah,
He was sort of kicking out a sort of,
yeah,
yeah, it's not a fire, it's a playground for him. So,
yeah.
coals dropping off as he swings this thing.
That's a great
Coals
idea.
and salamanders being scattered from the edges.
Yeah,
That's quite funny, actually. I quite like that as a sort of
oh yeah,
dark humor using because if it's made of iron, that thing would be really bloody hot.
yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of using it as a plaything is quite contemptuous.
So I may have got his scale wrong here, but it can be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, a really lovely thing which we did with Lux, which is happening such a lot more now, is that the artist is getting the credit on the box.
But yeah, I mean the things like the old fighting fantasy books and that kind of thing. I don't think the artists were credited on the covers for those. So it could be and in fact it's often difficult to, when I mean the book industry knows that most books are bought either because the customer likes the author and would buy again, or they like the cover.
Mm.
And obviously recommendations are the kind of biggest thing. But the covers play such a huge part, but you don't often find out who the cover designer is, and that's something that I find a bit off.
Yeah, look at that. He looks like he looks a bit like from upside down. He looks a bit like one of the fairies from sort of a Shakespearean.
Yeah,
Doesn't he? Looks like a Midsummer Night's Dream fairy.
there's some of that going on, definitely.
But of course, with this kind of picture, you're gonna have to put his penis on there because
Yeah,
they are if demons are nothing if proud of their tackle. They do love showing it and waving it around. Yeah, I like the idea of him turning up and coming. Let's see what other cards he would normally be in. I mean, he could be pissing up. I'd quite like him pissing against a weeping tree. That'd be quite funny. Being real. I mean, again, this idea of sacrilege and contempt for everything.
yeah,
That's what demons are. They don't give a shit about this. They'll, so having pissing up against a tree would quite funny.
yeah.
What else? Deck of cards. It'd be quite fun if he was actually, if you had a close-up of a deck of cards and the card back was done in that sort of bicycle style, but there was a very blocky, iconic version of that demon, that devil on the back.
Yep.
So he appears in as the backing of a deck of cards. In the mirror, of course, there's that our Peter Cushing characters looking in the mirror, but in the mirror is the picture of a demon's backside.
Yep.
So that could be our demon again. I just love the idea of him just popping up and just And yeah, caressing Mother Shipton's face, which is quite creepy. I mean, he could almost be, if you think about Actoy the cat.
Yeah.
Think about, you know, like our dog Ziggy's got a lovely black spot and he's got black patches on his white fur. If the cat had sort of black splotches and some of them looked like him, or one of them looked like him in a silhouette, that could be quite funny as well. Or perhaps am I going over the top now?
Let's see. Yeah, got to have glowing embers.
Yeah, sparks flying, things falling out.
Yeah.
In a sort of glee. So what have you done today, Dad? Oh yeah, I was drawing pictures of demon dicks.
Great band.
Demon willies. Yeah, there we go. Oh, chains are great fun drawing, aren't they?
Yeah.
I love drawing chains.
Chains and trains.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
I've not drawn a train for a while.
That's exactly what you want, isn't it? It's so evocative. That's tremendous, Alex.
Yeah, smoky.
Well, yeah, all of those things. Look at that. Yeah, put it back there. Look at that. This is where they all live. This is where the flames for the candle live. This is where the salamander does. This is where the sacrificial lamb comes in.
Yeah.
Because the sacrificial lamb is something that's on the fire that doesn't want to be. So we've got a bit of Saturn devouring his son.
Yeah.
And so something fairly macabre going on. Yeah. Super duper. Thank you, Alex. That's great. I hope this is useful for you because it's great fun for me, but it's got to be useful for you.
It really is. It's brilliant. Yeah. Let's keep doing them.
Super duper. All right, matey. That's fantastic. That's brilliant. That's a great session. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.